All right, and now we're at our main event, and I will now like to invite our Lieutenant Governor-elect, LG Dion Chambers, to the lectern to introduce our guest speaker this evening. Please make her welcome.
Thank you, President Savoy, and good evening, everyone. Special welcome to our immediate past Lieutenant Governor Ronette Menzies and our circuit carers in the house. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the Director of Public Prosecutions for Jamaica. And she is none other than Paula Llewelyn C.D. KC. The Director of Public Prosecutions was born as she was named, and as many may know, was appointed the first female Director of Public Prosecutions in Jamaica. On graduating from the St. Hugh's High School, Mrs. Llewelyn embarked on a study at the University of the West Indies and completed her program in 1984. In that year, same year, she was appointed to the position of Clerk of Court in the St. James Resident Magistrate Court. From there, she was appointed to Crown Counsel at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and within 7 years, she was appointed Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. Mrs. Llewelyn went on in 1999 to become the first woman to serve as the acting Director of Public Prosecutions. And of course, in 2003, she became the first woman to be appointed as the Senior Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions. And today, being an evening, we were recognizing women. It's indeed a proud moment just standing here to say that she made a lot of firsts. In 2008, she was appointed the first female Director of Public Prosecution, as I mentioned before. Following her appointment in 2008, Mrs. Llewelyn was appointed as Her Majesty Queen's Counsel, now called King's Counsel, and was conferred with the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander Class. In that same year, in May and August 2008, respectively, she had attained those cycles. In November, the DPP, as she is known, was the recipient of the Civil Service Long Service Medal for 25 years in public service. And we're now in 2025, so you can just add those numbers to see the amount of service she has, human service she has given to our country. As the DPP, Mrs. Llewelyn is also the designated Central Authority of Jamaica for the execution of mutual legal assistance in criminal matters and the competent authority for extradition. Mrs. Llewelyn has over 30 years of experience in her fraternity, and we would have heard some of those cases she has prosecuted, complex criminal cases, some of which were of exceptional public interest in courts of different jurisdictions, and we would have heard of some of them. Mrs. Llewelyn pioneered the prosecution of the first cases in Jamaica involving the DNA and cell site data analysis. She enjoys delivering motivational speeches, which I'm sure she's going to do this evening, on a variety of topics, including leadership, service above self, professionalism, and how to overcome challenges and community development. Mrs. Llewelyn is an engaging presenter, so we'll see that this evening as well. And, and she loves to speak on topics, especially internationally, on prosecuting strategy, skills and complexities, editing causation statements, all within the legal fraternity. And also on the role of the jury and among other things. Miss Llewelyn, has been an associate tutor at the Norman Manley Law School for approximately 10 years. She has certification in senior public sector management and has attended several international seminars, particularly in the different areas of criminal practice and procedures, and has participated as well as not only as a participant, but as a presenter. She has one daughter and attends the St. Mary's Anglican Church. She's also a member of the International Association of Prosecutors, and also a former member of the Trailblazers Toastmasters Club. She believes in excellence and professionalism. And so it is indeed, and she also, that excellence must be at the heart of service above self to her fellow citizens. So indeed, it's my pleasure to ask you to join me here at the lectern, where you will present your speech to us this evening to guide us on how it is that we can carry on leadership above self. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. But I have a big voice, but a little assistance with the mic after a long day. Very helpful. But here, I hope I have not had anything to do. But to all the officers of this club, I don't think I have spoken at this club before, but I have. Yes. Okay, all right.
You were at our anniversary.
Yes, your face is very familiar.
Our anniversary at the Knoxford Court Hotel.
Okay.
That was 5 years ago. Yes.
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 I remember now.
Yes.
I do remember. But it is always a pleasure for me to speak at service clubs, whether it be Kiwanis, Rotary, Lions, several service clubs, because when I share with you, you help to inspire me in respect of giving service above self, because you represent everyday Jamaicans. Thank you. You represent everyday Jamaicans who are the backbone of this country in respect of giving service. Now, I found it interesting that you were celebrating International Women's Day after the fact. And in fact, I have been very busy. I try to respond to a lot of the invitations that I get. Sometimes I overstretch myself. But one of my secretaries is in your audience, and she on occasion has said to me, "Slowly, again, but you have 2 to do next week and 1 that you did a couple weeks before." But it is really a pleasure for me to get out and be with you. Because as you will appreciate, the role that I play is not an easy one. But every time I come to a gathering like this, and I see you and know that you have chosen to belong to this club and to give service above self, as busy as you all are, as I say, it helps to inspire me. And it reminds me that it is not the public who serves those of us in public office. It is those of us in public office who serve you, the public in this country. So let me say thank you for your service. Thank you for choosing Kiwanis to give service above self. So clap yourself. Now, International Women's Day, I'm going to get right into it. There was a book called How Women and the Men Who Think Like Them Will Rule the Future by John Versimo and Michael D'Antonio. And they developed this Athena doctrine. And a summary of the content of the book underscored what I have always come to recognize, the fact that more women than men have emotional intelligence, have an ability to multitask, and an ability to commit, subjugate your ego to the greater good of your team member and the organization. Although I say this, I still believe that good leadership ultimately transcends gender. But it is a plus for a lot of us as women to recognize these skill sets and to use it strategically to enhance our leadership capacity. In this book by John Versimo and Mr. Antonio, they also indicated that the certain qualities of the ideal leader are feminine. These include connectedness, humility, candor, patience, morality, empathy, trustworthiness, openness, flexibility, vulnerability, and balance. And this is what encompasses the Athena doctrine. According to Mr. Versimo, feminine values are the operating system of 21st century businesses. And another CEO of a Japanese web-based magazine, Greens, Mr. Yosh Kanematsu, said, and I quote, "The masculine side likes to deliver on its promises and push forward with tunnel vision." I'm sure some women are agreeing with me, or the Japanese gentleman. The feminine side is more inclusive and comprehensive in its view. It is strong, but it is also perceptive and considerate. I must confess that although I agree with these sentiments, I think that 21st century thinking demands that we recognize the qualities of any good leader, whether they be male or female, and perhaps getting into a gender-centered debate could be more distracting, and perhaps it may be alienating when one looks at progress that could be made if we have this distraction. Some of you, and I've had people tell me that they have followed me in the media. I've had people in the Caribbean who have told me that they follow me in the media. But I'm sure in my 17 years as DPP, you have never once heard me publicly victim shame myself because I am a woman. Even when I'm coming under the fire and the slings and arrows, I never, ever ask anybody to look on my gender. I never complain that, all right, I am in a role that was hitherto kept only for the patriarch. No. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just a brain like anybody else. And I always like to say, I am here to take it on the chin in the way that a man is supposed to. Never mind that some men do it. I'm just teasing. But I have never believed in it. And I have never been detained by the fact that I'm female. Because what I try to do is to be a motivator, especially when I speak to young people, to all genders. And a certain gentleman to the north, what did he say in an executive order? That there are only two genders. But I'm not going to get into that. I must confess, you know, when one looks at the debate going on in the United States, sometimes you just have to look on and smile. Yeah. But seriously, it is so important that whether you be male or female, once you have good characteristics of being a leader, being a motivator, being somebody who is able to subjugate your own ego for the good of everybody else, that you step up to the plate and lead and carry persons with you in a spirit of positivity. And that is how I choose to celebrate International Women's Day. So in paving the way forward for good leadership, it is imperative that a good leader should have real confidence. Confidence is not the same as ego. Unfortunately, so a lot of persons pretend to have this quality, but it is sometimes revealed over time that in reality, that person suffers from rank insecurity and low self-esteem, which I may bold to say is any human being's worst enemy. That person walks around with not just a chip on the shoulder, but a tree, which will cause that person to indulge in bad-mindedness, grudgefulness, spite, exude toxicity, and in turn cause him or her to be that toxic force which undermines the value of their organization or their community. True leaders cannot afford to give in to these insecurities, as it has been known to destroy the career paths of those who have succumbed to this monster. If you realize that you have it, get help in dealing with it. So we only need to recognize that there are elements which are intrinsic to both males and females, which will enhance these good leadership qualities. And it is for all of us to nurture and train ourselves to extract from the central pool to make sure we adopt the best practices of what a good leader is all about. Now, the famous singer Michael Jackson, in his very well-known song, Man in the Mirror, had said in the song, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Young people at the frontier, I hope you're not too young. I'm sure you know about Michael Jackson. You know, I have been in the public service for 40 years. So I am the mother of a 26-year-old who adored Michael Jackson when she was pretty young. But I am sensitive enough to know that when I'm dealing with Gen Z or Gen X or, you know, that I have to be careful that I don't get a deer in the headlights. So what is she talking about? But Michael Jackson, I think, would be known by everybody over the last 40 years. But it's a very important set of words that he has here. And it speaks about, and I say this especially to young people, the ability to introspect. Because if you look to be a good leader, You can't afford to be one of these people triggered by rank. You are the leader, what is LG? LG, or you are the president-elect or the president. And then it's as if it's a trigger. You just float off on a cloud. And you're up in the stratosphere, looking down on everybody else who would be in the trenches. No. To my mind, leadership means that you keep your feet on the ground. I remember when all those years ago, when I was appointed after a competitive process as DPP. We give speeches and people are introducing, and they would say, "Oh, Ms. Llewelyn has been elevated to the post of DPP for the position." And I would apologize and say, "I'm not an agent. I don't have any weight. I was not elevated. I remain your humble servant. I was only appointed, and my feet remain on the ground." Well, it is known that I love to talk about that in the trenches, right? So I do this and I say this so I remind myself of how important it is as a leader to recognize that humility is the underbelly of success. Humility is the underbelly of success, and that your reputation as a good leader is your greatest non-depreciating asset. And another one of my favorite quotes, which I coined also, is the fact that an excess of ego can neutralize common sense. And whenever I think of that, that is one of the best things to prevent you from allowing excess ego to overwhelm you. Because it's bad for you, it does not build good character. And if you lead in an organization, and when I say lead, not only being president, but any role of as an officer in the organization, it prevents you from being collaborative, consultative, and operating with camaraderie with your colleagues, and you forget that you can disagree with each other without being disagreeable. It is when you have that excess ego that you have to be disagreeable if you are disagreeing. So I would encourage you never to allow excess ego to neutralize your common sense. So we talk about excellence being the gold standard. And I love this book by Ayanna Van Zandt, and she speaks about excellence. Acts of Faith, daily meditation of for people of color. She says excellence requires commitment, a force from your soul. Excellence is a power source and a sure way to ensure that your product or service will be in demand. When you are committed to excellence, you must think in an orderly way, behave in an orderly way, conduct yourself in an orderly manner, and perform your tasks in order. Excellence is flexible. It does not get stuck in the right way, but sees the best way of all ways to get the job done. So if we are thinking about International Women's Day, and we juxtapose that with what it means to be a good leader, whether you are female or you are male, because that is how I look at International Women's Day. You think of the particular character traits or the factors that would help you to embrace excellence and to go along the journey of success in whatever arena professionally you are in. It helps when you develop an enhanced sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. I say to you and I say to the young people, find persons who are positive motivators. Find persons who are not toxic. Like a good cricketer, batsman, learn to pick up the line of delivery, to be discerning so that you can see people who, although they may try to befriend you, but they are mean-spirited or they don't mean you well. So you keep clear of those people. I say to not only young people, but to all of you, have a couple persons who are more mature than you, who can be good mentors. To this day, my mentor, the former senior penal judge, which is Justice Martha McIntosh, who is in her 80s. All those years ago, I met her over 30 years ago at the office of the DPP when she was a prosecutor. And to this day, I have no problem talking to her about anything and allowing her to remind me about the man in the mirror when I self-introspect. And that is important in fostering humility as the underbelly of success. And I will call her and say, you know, I had this clash in the public discourse, or I did this, or I did that. How did I do? How did I solve? What was my tone like? Did I need to be more diplomatic? I have no problem doing that. And that sort of thing helps me when I look at my team. I have 57 lawyers that I supervise and a staff of about 110, 112. And I try to make sure that I create an atmosphere that everybody, from the prosecutors to the messengers, feel comfortable that I am there to create the atmosphere for you to outshine. And I say to them, whether you're the messenger, admin staff, or the prosecutor, feel free to outshine me. And I will be the first to applaud you. So you should also have an ability to stay focused. I find with a very young generation these days, an inability to stay focused. I don't know if it's because of the whole heap of computer games, the instant gratification atmosphere that we are in. Sometimes they find difficulty in remaining focused. Distractions are all around. Young people, when I was pretty young, you'd think I could tell my parents, first of all, you could only watch TV about half an hour. You had to find a book to read. My mother was a nurse. When I got sick, she dosed up and sent me to school 6 days in school. I took call her to say I was with that temperature. When I was in sixth form, I sent you and my parents had cars. And I said, Daddy, you're not going to teach me to drive. It's only your mom know how to drive. And he looked at me and he said, when you learn to wash my car, when you can learn to drive it. And anyhow, on a Saturday morning, the sun was up, and my sister and I are still in bed. No. We would get a big shout, come out of the bed and come and help me mow the lawn, and come and help with the cooking. Laziness was a bad word in my house. The work ethic was celebrated. My mother believed it brought up faith. And my daughter thought I was strict. When I conveyed it to her, I used to hear her tell me thank you. When she went to a private boarding school on scholarship from Immaculate, she called me 3 months after and said, Mommy, I'm not in these kids here. They're in the psychotherapy. I'm so happy you are my mental health professional. Thank you for how you brought me up. I was sitting in the living room in the evening darkness and I just made a sign of the cross. Right? But you find these days, a lot of parents are afraid to parent and to give them tough love. And they want to be just friends with their children and not set the boundaries and the parameters. All that, in terms of the parenting side, is part of celebrating International Women's Day. All of that is a part of it. So, you also have to have the will to remain positive, even in the face of what may seem insurmountable challenges. And to put it in Jamaican parlance, insurmountable challenges, I'm going to tell you about that. But thank God, I have faith, and I was brought up in Anglican church, and my mother and my father believed in having courage under fire. And they taught my sister and I that when you go through the fire, you come out on the other side like finely timbered steel. The worst you could do for my father is to show a lack of courage. You will say, what's wrong with your sister? So, you also have to have mental toughness. Another thing with some of our young people today, I don't know if it's because of the instant notification and everything is there at the touch of a button, but some lack resilience. You know what resilience is? Young man, tell me what resilience is. Tell me what it is to be resilient.
To be strong-minded.
Yes?
To not cower in the face of fear.
And if it is that you fall down, all right, that is being resilient. You know, a lot of people don't like how Mr. Trump is going on, but history is going to record that he has got to be one of the most resilient politicians at this present time. Because to go through all of that and still at 78, have that vigor and vitality. You don't necessarily agree with some of what he does, but objectively, if you're a student of history, he is, in the 21st century, one of the outstanding figures that exemplify what it is to be resilient. It is a very good quality to have in your journey to success. You can't give up. You can't have other people own your power. They will know how to control you and neutralize you. So you have to have that ability, that mental toughness. You have to be competent at whatever you do. You have to have integrity. You have to have the capacity to work hard. My mother used to love my sister. You can take over and you work hard. Nobody, my mother would say, nobody can use hard work. Is another factor that you must have with you in your journey to success. Faith in yourselves and faith in God. Because I am a believer, that faith sustains. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great thing to celebrate International Women's Day, but I never look at it in a narrow sense. I always look at it as encompassing all genders, because the particular intrinsic qualities that makes for having a great woman, invariably, if you look closely enough, it can encompass having a great man. So I don't want to be overstay my welcome. Okay, but along the way, as I reflect, given the fact that I have a few months to go before I limit office, I reflect a lot on the 40 years. In between working, I was a workaholic. Yes, I'm working hard still, but compared to many long nights, oh my goodness, many long nights, but it was all worth it when I see where the office is today compared to what we're coming from. And the fact that we are the preeminent prosecuting department in the Caribbean. We're one of the biggest. Plus that support posts, which should take us up to about 70 lawyers, which would make us the biggest in the Caribbean. We have got the renovation of our office space, which would make us perhaps the biggest office space housing prosecutors in the Caribbean. And I've been to several. We have many units, anti-gang, extradition, mutual legal assistance, digital and cyber crimes, to name a few. And you don't have that, maybe because they're too small in other areas of the Caribbean. Myself and several of my senior staff, we are asked from time to time to go and make presentations. In fact, during the hiatus, when I was on a break, let me put it that way, I was invited by the Chief Justice in Belize to come and make presentations in the faculty. She put her on there to the bar, judiciary. I was invited by the Minister of Justice in Guyana to come and make presentations over there, by the Attorney General and the DPP in Barbados. So I was still, in a way, keeping occupied. And I also took the opportunity and did a course. I thought it was self-development and became a gazetted mediator for the dispute resolution. So what does that show you? So many of my close friends, so many people were telling me that they are praying for me. What did we say? Are you sure that you should just step away totally? I said, no, principle. I have to trust the system. And I did. I had to show my staff and the public of this country who have kept faith with me what resilience is all about. And at the end of the day, I emerged. And as a gentleman said to me, I tell this joke all the time. A few years ago, he comes up to me, love your smile, the open space. And he paused. I said, what a way this stress agree with you. Well, look at me today, after 40 years, and of course, let me say, so at least some people know your age. With me now, everybody in the whole world now knows my age. So, you know, you just have to take it in good spirits and make sure that the stress agrees with you and that you're looking good. You do a little exercise and you just be very positive and let that be your best makeup, the positivity. And it has to do with what is internal. I used to tell my daughter, beauty from within is the best beauty that you can have. It is the best beauty. I think of the 3 B's: brains, beauty, and there is another one that escapes me. But beauty from within, it cannot be beat. Because beauty on the outside very often is only skin deep. Have you ever met people who are extremely beautiful, but they have a very poor and outer spirit? Yes. Nothing can be more disappointing when you find that. And you may meet somebody who would never be classed as a beauty, but just being around them, being around their aura, you are touched, you are motivated. In fact, sometimes you feel that you are blessed having interacted with them. That is the sort of beauty from within that I prefer. And of course, for you young ladies, the brains part of it. For the gentlemen too. But my mother used to tell me another thing. Make sure you get some certification. Get something in your head so that you don't have to catch on a man's eyelash, because if you start to wait, what will happen? You'll drop off. Right? So that is part and parcel of celebrating International Women's Day. It's important for the men to be certified, but it's very important for the women to make sure that you get some certification and a means of being able to manage yourself. Right? And when you know how to manage yourself and you love yourself, you will be surprised at the high-minded men that you will attract. All right? And that is facts. Okay. That is facts. Who is afraid? Well, yes, that may be so, but I strongly believe that when you radiate a lot of positivity and you love yourself and you care for yourself and you make sure that you're occupied and you're not some sort of clinging vine, eventually you will attract somebody who is worthwhile and who you deserve. That's what I believe. And what you should do is believe that and speak it into being. Okay? One thing that my mother couldn't stand is negativity. She would say, Paula, where is your can-do attitude? Where's your positivity? And let me tell you, I'm coming from being a very, very ugly duckling. Very shy when I was at primary school, St. George's Girls Primary. I didn't even learn how to ride a bicycle. I was a real nerd. All I used to do was read books. I mean, I was like a speed reader. I loved language, I loved words. And then it's when I went to high school that I started coming out of that shy phase. Then I became a frustrated actress. And I realized I didn't want to go and become a librarian so that I could have all these books to read. I discovered that I had my father's flair for drama and being flamboyant. And I went to the law faculty, was accepted there, and the rest is history. I just worked very, very, very hard so that at the end of the day, notwithstanding all the challenges that were put in my way, I showed resilience, and the rest is history. So I'm going to leave you with 2 of life's rules. Duke Ellington, the great American composer, said, rule number 1, life has 2 rules. Never quit. Rule number 2, always remember rule number 1. Another philosopher, Ziglar, says, it is your attitude, not your aptitude, that will determine your altitude. So especially young people, remember that. And also Ayana Van Zandt, she also says, with your own hands, you make your success. With your hands, you can destroy it. So make sure that as we celebrate International Women's Day, we remember all that is good about our women and our men. But since we are focusing on our women, I will leave you with something I came across, which is for general application. General application, then I will close with an emphasis on women. Somebody sent this to me and I thought it was so cute. And I quote, "One day you will tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it will become someone else's survival guide." It was never feel sorry for yourself. Or even if you feel sorry for yourself, going through some of life's potholes and challenges, you pick yourself up and you start all over again. Because one day, having overcome the challenges, your story will become someone else's survival guide. And also, Mahatma Gandhi said, as human beings, our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world, as in being able to remake ourselves. So never be afraid that when you introspect, or if you have a mentor, speak who you trust, speak to you about perhaps course corrections that you can make. Never be afraid to deliberately make those course corrections. It is for your own good. It helps you in the journey of life. I'm here to tell you, it helps you in the journey of life. But finally, I have been privileged. I found my passion professionally in being a prosecutor. I have appeared against the best, and I have prosecuted the worst. I have met upon challenges from the patriarchy, whether from the media or otherwise. I'm not even going to mention the word political. Because at the end of the day, I just relegate all of these challenges as the necessary headwinds that you must meet upon if you are successful. If you are not successful, or if you are failing and nobody's talking about you, it is because you are not being effective. So that is how I've looked at it. And I've always prayed that God gives me the strength, the courage, and the wisdom and the grace to deal with the challenges. Because at the end of the day, what was most important is the contribution that I was making to other people's lives in the way that you are as Kiwanians. That is what is critical. And that is what leaves you with a sense of jobs well done and a feeling of well-being. The fact that when you take on these projects, you bring positive change in people's lives. And at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. Because it's not the material things. You know, when I saw my father at 98 pass, my father was with the beautiful house of the growing. He was so houseful. And at the end of the day, what my mother, who passed before me, to tell you, that when God is ready for you, and you're going 6 feet under, you don't take his in with you. But what people will speak of is the contribution that you made to other people's lives and their well-being. And if you look back on your life and you see where you have from that. You can't ask for anything more. That's what I tell myself. So as I start my tour and I try to go all around the island in terms of work to say my farewells to the police, to the public, to people like you. I say my farewells, but I say also thank you. It has been a privilege to have served. And looking back on the 40 years, if I had it to do all over again, I would still have become a prosecuting attorney. And it has been a privilege to have served Jamaicans in this great country, Jamaica, that we love. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the support. So to all the women, and I think the men will applaud the women, the phenomenal women celebrating International Women's Day, I can't close without referring to one of the great poems on the point by Maya Angelou. And I will say it for you. Of course, you young people know Maya Angelou. Pretty women wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model's size. But when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hoops, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I am a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me. I walk into a room just as cool as you please. And to a man, the fellows stand or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes and the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist and the joy in my feet. I'm a woman. Phenomenal woman. Ladies and gentlemen, that's me. Thank you.
Are there any questions? DP Shaggy.
I know you're simple of figure, vitality. I must say that big, all big. My question for you is the next chapter of your life. If you care to share.
Well, first of all, I have never wanted to be a judge. But never wanted. President Chief Justice and I were at the DPP's office at the same time. And we were both deputies. He always wanted to be a judge. I've never had that desire. But I know, and I've been told, I'm a communicator. And several people have said to me, Ms. Llewelyn, we certainly will be reaching out to you to make presentations, to train. I want to work as hard. People tell me I'm going to work even harder. But I think work-life balance is important. I have been a workaholic. Happily, motherhood intervened. But my daughter would say I was still a workaholic. But she's not the worse for it because she can be one as well. But I want to do some philanthropy in terms of I'll be able to do anything at my church, some of the good works. But I'm a communicator, so I suspect that I will do consultancy and also do the occasional piece in terms of prosecutions, whether here or in the Caribbean, because I'm well known in the Caribbean too. But I will try to place myself, and by the way, it's Miss Llewelyn, not Mrs. Right? But whatever God wills, I can continue making a contribution to Jamaica, but it's just doing something else. But I'll be okay.
Okay, thank you for your production work. Kiwanis, you're always inclusive.
Well, I have a little bit more time.
So I think DP Charlie took my question as well, because I envision you at the head of the legislature arm of the government in the future. I think you're going to take it easy. You're not going to be Chief Justice. Any other questions for DPP? Any comments? I guess everyone is still full from the presentation.
Yeah.
So I'm going to invite our distinguished Lieutenant Governor, Pauline Samuels, to give the official vote of thanks. Please make her welcome to the podium.
Thank you, President Boy. Good evening, fellow Kiwanis and guests. This evening, as you heard, I am saying thanks to DPP Paula Llewelyn for accepting our call and being here this evening. We all heard of her busy schedule, but notwithstanding, she's here. And this is not her first time coming to South St. Catherine, and so we're eternally grateful to her for always answering our call. DPP Paula, you have left us with some great nuggets this evening. And what I admired is that you came here post International Women's Day to speak on that topic, but notwithstanding, the men were included in your talk. And so we are grateful for that, because South St. Catherine really started out as a female-only club. And in recent years, we had to change our bylaws to include the male, because we felt that it was the right time. So thank you so much for that. And another topic that you touched on was leadership, because that's one of the things that we strive in Kiwanis to do, to motivate and inspire our members and our young ones to be leaders in our society. We need that so much. And what was good is what you spoke about. As a leader, you must never feel like you're up there and we're down here. A leader should always have his or her feet on the ground at all times. And this is something that we encourage and we talk about with members in the South, in the Kiwanis movement overall. So we thank you so much for that. I appreciate what you spoke about with some parents are afraid to be parent or to do parenting, because this is overwhelming our society. And when you said it, I reflected on one of my daughters. I have two daughters. And I reflected on it because the bigger one, she has a little daughter, and she's only allowed to watch television on weekends. On a Saturday, she's only allowed to watch the television on a Saturday. And she has a tablet, but the tablet is only given to her if she's not watching the TV on a Saturday morning. She's on her tablet. And it's only educational material that is on that tablet. Because I was there late last year and I felt sorry for her, which is my granddaughter. I felt sorry for her, and I felt like sometimes she should be allowed to watch the TV, but I'm not gonna change what's in place. So it's left at that. But it is so important, and it is good for them because she recognized that this is the rule of the house and you have to abide by it. And so she has adopted very well to that, but she lives for those Saturday morning. So on a Friday evening, she will say, what is tomorrow? And I go, it is Saturday. And she says, oh, I didn't get to watch TV. But yes, there's so much for us to do here as parents. And so we thank you so much for what you have left us here this evening. And I hope the young persons and the other members of Kiwanis have taken heed, have learned something, and will leave here this evening remembering all that you have given to us. So thank you so very much for being here. Thank you, fellow Kiwanis. Excuse me. Thank you, fellow Kiwanians and guests, for coming out this evening to show your support. And as you all heard, the DPP Paula, we're open as a Kiwanis Club, and so we welcome you at any time. Thank you, and thank you for the service that you have given to Jamaica. Thank you so much.